वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून एंड वेलकम। आप देख रहे हैं बजट से उम्मीदें। आपका बजट 2023 का बजट कैसा हो सकता है आपके लिए, किन सेक्टर से आपको क्या एक्सपेक्टेशन रखनी चाहिए कि बजट में उसकी अनाउंसमेंट होगी, इस पे हम चर्चा करेंगे। आज जो सेक्टर हम लेके आ रहे हैं आपके लिए डिस्कशन के लिए वो है ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर। ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर इसकी जो इम्पोर्टेंस क्यों है, क्योंकि क्रूड ऑयल जो है, हम नेट इम्पोर्टर्स है। हमारा देश करीबन 75% ऑफ द क्रूड ऑयल इज़ इम्पोर्टेड, यानी कि हम 75% जो है क्रूड ऑयल इम्पोर्ट करते हैं। हमारी डिपेंडेंसी बहुत है ऑयल पे, और इसके चलते हुए जो रणनीति है सरकार की वो बदलती रहती है, सपोर्ट करती रहती है। ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर से हमें क्या उम्मीदें रखनी चाहिए, इस पर हम चर्चा करेंगे। हमारे साथ बहुत ही खास मेहमान जुड़ चुके हैं, मिस्टर R.K. गोयल, एक्स डायरेक्टर गैस अथॉरिटी ऑफ इंडिया लिमिटेड। वेरी गुड आफ्टरनून सर एंड वेलकम टू द शो। मिस्टर गोयल एसोसिएटेड है बहुत सारी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के साथ। रत्नागिरी गैस एंड पावर प्राइवेट लिमिटेड को एडवाइजरी सर्विसेज देते हैं। महाराष्ट्र नेचुरल गैस के साथ भी इनका संबंध बना हुआ है एडवाइजरी सर्विसेज को लेके, और रिलायंस पेट्रोलियम के लिए भी इन्होंने काम किया है। तो बहुत सारे क्षेत्रों में आप काम कर रहे हैं मिस्टर गोयल। पहले तो हम बात करेंगे क्रूड ऑयल के प्राइस की। क्रूड ऑयल के दाम हमने देखा कि उठापटक 2022 में जारी रही, और फाइनेंशियल ईयर में हम अगर बात करें तो $125 प्रति बैरल से घिरकर अब क्रूड जो है $80-85 प्रति बैरल के आसपास कामकाज कर रहा है। लेकिन ये जो वॉलेटिलिटी हमने क्रूड ऑयल में देखी है, ये उतार चढ़ाव जो देखा है, इससे हमारी ऑयल मार्केटिंग कंपनीज और हमारे देश को काफ़ी
लाइक रिडक्शन इन वैट, abolition of import duty on the equipment which is required on that, subsidies. Now we are quite hopeful that the government or our finance minister will definitely give some benefit for this production of ethanol, so that it can be blended with the petrol and the emission level can be reduced by blending ethanol in that, and the import of crude oil can also be reduced. So we are hopeful either the GST should be brought down to zero, from 5% to zero, which is very important, and some benefit in the direct taxation, like tax holiday benefit. Whosoever is laying the ethanol plants, they should get the benefit of 100% tax exemption, at least for 7 to 10 years. So that is very important. Right. If these are in the backward area, some the earlier history of 20 years benefit for the backward area development. So I think that benefit can be passed on to these plants. So that will be definitely helpful in that. Then another area is on which the government is focusing as of today to reduce the import of crude oil and natural gas is renewable energy. Now government is very much inclined that the sources of renewable energy should be developed well in the country. So there are 4-5 sources of renewable energy, like it is solar energy, wind energy, and another very important is geothermal energy. That is in the bottom of the land or the earth, there is some sort of steam or the air. Out of that the gas can be generated. So our dependence of 45 or 50% import of gas can be reduced if we may capture that. Then there is a green hydrogen. It is a new concept which the government has recently introduced. And for green hydrogen, you need to have the electrolyzer plants. That is the most important equipment which is required to produce the green hydrogen. For the electrolyzer plants, government has to provide some fiscal benefits. They have to reduce the VAT on that, or GST wherever it is applicable on this, and the benefits in the direct and indirect taxation for the electrolyzer plants is also very important. And the subsidy from or the soft loan from the banks can be provided in that. So we are quite hopeful that the finance ministry will think over on these issues to reduce the GST on ethanol. And for electrolyzer plants, they will have to definitely pass on some fiscal benefits to develop this area.
मिस्टर गोयल, इस पूरे जो क्राइसिस हमने देखी, एनर्जी क्राइसिस जिसको हम बोलते हैं यूरोजोन में, उससे साफ संकेत यही मिल रहे हैं कि सारे ही देशों को, नेशंस को इंडिपेंडेंट होना पड़ेगा, अपनी इंटरनल रिसोर्सेज लगा के अपनी एनर्जी क्राइसिस अगर कभी भी देश में आती है तो उसको वो कंट्रोल कर पाए, उसको वो देख पाए। लेकिन हमारे देश में बातें बड़ी बड़ी होती है, लेकिन काम जो होता है वो बड़ी धीमी गति में चलता है। एग्जीक्यूशन फ्रंट पे वी फेस इश्यूज, इवन इफ देयर आर ह्यूज एंड बिग अनाउंसमेंट्स इन द बजट और इन अदर फोरम्स, बट द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट एग्जीक्यूशन लेवल पे हम फेल कर जाते हैं और इंसेंटिवाइज जहाँ पे करना चाहिए वहाँ नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज दैट चेन, दैट सप्लाई जिसको हम चेन बोलते हैं, जिस चेन में एक साइकिल में काम होता है, उस एक साइकिल को तो हम इंसेंटिवाइज करते हैं, उस एक पोर्शन को, अगले पोर्शंस को हम नेक्स्ट बजट के लिए छोड़ देते हैं। तो ये हमारे में बड़ी खामी रही है। इसको कैसे हम स्ट्रीमलाइन कर सकते हैं प्रोसेसेस को कि एफिशिएंट हो कंपनियां, एफिशिएंसी से काम करें, प्रोडक्टिव हो। तो ये एक बड़ा मेजर मुद्दा बना हुआ है।
I think it's a very good issue you have raised. I'll say because this economy is the largest economy in the world.
True.
We are developing in various areas. The government is also taking initiatives by creating new policies to how to develop the oil and gas or the other sectors. This sector has been classified as a strategic sector. Now most of the units, CPSE units or the private sector units, they are working very well in this sector, and the return on capital employed is very excellent. Now gradually, as the government is making the policy, it always takes time to how to develop it. Now as of now, government is focusing on EVs, electric vehicles. Now on that, to develop that electric vehicles in the country, we have to develop the infrastructure. Now I think the pilot running has already been done. Some of the buses even in Delhi are also flying on electricity. Cars are also flying in the on the road, but it has not been made public. I think it will take some time, and because for such a large economy, if you think that the wonders may happen overnight, probably it is not possible. And I will appreciate the present government, the way they are taking initiatives to provide benefits or to extend all sort of helps to the industries, especially not only in oil and gas, but also in steel area, in infrastructure area, in urban area. So government is definitely contributing something. Now they are focusing on renewable energy. I think that may develop very well. Our dependence earlier on natural gas, imported natural gas, was around 70%. It has come down to 45–50%. Now because the international market, the price of natural gas has jumped like anything earlier. Now at least it has come down. Now government is taking initiative to reduce the import duty on RLNG, LNG, which is to be regasified and to be converted into gas. Earlier the rate was 10%. I know when I was working with GAIL, the rate on LNG custom duty was 10% plus surcharge thereon. It was somewhere around 10.75 or so. We represented that. We represented that the pipeline sector should be recognized as a infrastructure sector. So both these requests of the GAIL has been accepted by the government. Now today the custom duty on LNG is 2.5% plus 10% for the social welfare fund. So practically it comes to be 2.75%. So now we request to the government it should be brought down at least to 1%. But there is a push and pull game with the government as well. In case they may reduce the import duty, probably the import will increase. Private players in the market who are doing the PNG supply, they may start importing the gas instead of depending upon the domestic gas only. So probably because of that the government is not taking immediate step to reduce the custom duty, but this time industry has made a representation to the government that this custom duty on LNG should be reduced from 2.5% to 1%.
And that will be very helpful.
And that will be very much helpful because once your costing factor will reduce, your cost will reduce, input cost. So the manufacturers, they can do wonders. They can definitely do profitable ventures. Now CGD has developed in the country very well. Now almost after the PNGRB initiative, almost all the cities are covered in this CNG. But now the government focus is to supply the gas to the domestic sector. But we don't have enough gas. We don't have enough natural gas because of domestic sources. So the only rescue operation is either the renewable gas through the renewable energy sources or to import the gas from outside. Then only you can supply it to the domestic sector.
So there's a possibility of rationalization of duty on imported LNG, right?
There is a possibility of rationalization of duty on the imported gas. Number two, the government will also think over the GST benefit to the natural gas. Because as of today, in case you are importing the natural gas, your custom duty is 0. But you are not getting custom duty is 0 only for power production. But for other sector like PNG and CNG, the custom duty you have to pay 2.5% plus surcharge. But the GST is such an area which is required to be covered for the petroleum sector. Now in case you are taking any input benefit, you are importing any equipments, you are importing any other tools and other you can say input material like gas and other things, you have to pay VAT on that. So there is no GST benefit on this. Whereas the input GST benefit should be passed on to the CNG sector. So we are hopeful that the government will take some step on this issue, that the input tax on account of GST should also be benefited to the CGD companies.
What is the possibility of petrol, diesel, LNG coming under GST? हाँ ये ऐसा है कि GST Council will take the decision on it, लेकिन budget में कुछ indications मिल सकती है?
See, I think this issue is very hot since last 3-4 years. As of today, in case you may see the costing of petrol or diesel or the public fuel like kerosene and Indian gas and other gas, LPG, etc. These are all covered because of the statutory levies, which is equivalent to 55 to 60%. In case it is covered under GST, I think the cost of all these fuels will come down drastically. Today the petrol in Delhi is 96 per litre. So 50% of that is only because of excise duty and VAT. If the government may cover it in GST, probably the price of petrol can be reduced to 70 rupees, 65-70 rupees, including dealer commission. So definitely the OMCs or the oil sector is representing to the government that should be covered in GST. But my own gut feeling is that probably they will pass on some benefit of GST to the natural gas. Not to petrol and diesel as of today, because that will give a big hit to the treasury. So budget deficit cannot be taken care of in case the GST is introduced on the petroleum product. So my own doubt is there that if anything can be passed on this.
Mr. Goel, disinvestment के बारे में बात करते हैं. BPCL का disinvestment 3 साल तक चला लेकिन हुआ नहीं, and finally government gave up and said that अभी हम disinvestment नहीं करेंगे BPCL की. It's basically bids receive हुई थी वो सही नहीं थी, valuations को लेके concern थे. तो क्या लगता है आपको इस बार एक बार फिर disinvestment की list में BPCL होगा?
I will straightway say there is no possibility for that. Let me give a brief about the BPCL disinvestment. In 2019, government has given a strategic call that we are going for the divestment of the BPCL. So during this process, BPCL was having some holding in NRL. The government took a step to divest that NRL equity holding, and they have realized around 10,000 crore out of that divestment. How it was done? It was done by way of selling the equity, NRL equity, to the consortium of Engineer India Limited, Oil India Limited, and the Assam government. So that way they have come out of the equity holding of NRL. Now thereafter the strategic decision was taken by the government for the divestment of its 52.85% share in BPCL in the market. Expression of interest was invited. There were 3 expression of interest we received. One was from Vedanta, the another one was from I Square Capital, and the third was from the venture capital of US. After some time, these 2 global funds have withdrawn themselves. They have withdrawn because they want to have a focus on the fossil fuel instead of going for the refining and crude oil base, which because the market is very much volatile. So they decided to come out of this. And the another issue was geopolitical reasons in the market. And the third most important factor was COVID-19. That because of this pandemic, government could not realize that strategic decision. So they have cancelled their decision and they have withdrawn all the expression of interest and the issue was cancelled. Then under the CPSC policy, government has divided all the public sector units into 4 sectors. And the petroleum sector is under the strategic sector. As per the government understanding, or rather I will say the public understanding, company like GAIL, ONGC, BPCL, Oil India, Indian Oil Corporation, these are all strategically doing very good business. So government thought that instead of divesting it globally, it is better that in case we may do it in-house. Earlier there was a concept of the cross-holding, as they did in case of NRL. So government is more focusing on that the BPCL may be partly divested to make up a target of 40,000 crore and maybe to the other rich oil sector companies, as they did in case of HPCL, which was acquired by ONGC. Probably their eyes are on GAIL or Indian Oil, that they may acquire some stake in that and it may be sold. So if you may ask me, as per my understanding and my experience in oil and gas sector, I will say that BPCL will not be divested globally now. The earlier concept of cross-holding may be introduced by the government. In the budget, I don't expect anything is likely to come for BPCL.
मिस्टर गोयल, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया आज प्रोग्राम में शामिल होने के लिए। बहुत लंबी चर्चा हो सकती है ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर पे, लेकिन समय की हमारी पाबंदी है। एंड थैंक यू सो मच फॉर योर टाइम।
थैंक यू सो मच। थैंक यू।
तो आज हमने ऑयल एंड गैस पे पहली चर्चा की, तो बहुत सारी उम्मीदें हैं ऑयल एंड गैस सेक्टर में फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर से। पूरे बजट की जो प्रक्रिया है वो देखनी होगी कि ऑयल एंड गैस क्षेत्र के लिए क्या हो सकता है। क्रूड में काफ़ी वॉलेटिलिटी हम देख चुके हैं और क्रूड एक स्ट्रेटेजिक मुद्दा जो है हमारे देश के लिए है, बिकॉज वी आर नेट इम्पोर्टर्स ऑफ क्रूड। तो अभी के इस कार्यक्रम में इतना ही, लेकिन बजट पे क्या उम्मीदें हो सकती है इस पर चर्चा जारी रहेगी। आप देखते रहिए जागरण बिजनेस। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर वॉचिंग।